regulars. Welcome to Rotary, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, whatever. It finally feels like fall, and that's my alliteration for the day. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and if everybody would unmute and join me with that, and I'll try and get the flag where it needs to be. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And if everybody will mute now, so we don't get the background phone calls and dog barking and that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of scanning. I don't see guests. So we'll move into some announcements. And probably most importantly, this evening, the Rotary Cubed group, which as you will recall is the Rotary Club of Harlem, 6:30 this evening. Topic is
Stan, you're breaking up pretty badly. Looks to me like Stan is frozen. Well, if you can hear me, raise your hand. Okay, good. Well, at least we still have us.
okay. Steve, can you hear me?
Every once in a while.
Oh, I don't know if it's a bad connection. Well, I'll soldier on. Again, the district conference, Saturday, November 7, one-day deal, so it's not a huge time commitment. I would encourage you to go to the link in yesterday's email, and you'll get more information about that. I noted in yesterday's email, Rotary International is going to have its first woman president, and that is Jennifer Jones. She's from one of the Windsor, Ontario, I believe, and she will be the president during the 2022-2023 Rotary year. So that's kind of yet another barrier broken. Does anybody else have announcements that I need to address? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move to Steve to have him introduce our speaker. Anything I missed? Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve and let him introduce our speaker today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Gary Schwantz is a good friend of mine who was visiting, actually, from Lubbock this last weekend, and we were talking, and he told me he had just spoken to his Rotary Club in Lubbock. And I said, well, I sure need a speaker for Thursday. No one's saying yes yet. And so he graciously agreed to. He's currently teaching at Texas Tech in the College of Media Communications. And one of the topic he asked me to use for today is, can we talk about your brother-in-law? So I'll turn it over to Dr. Gary Schwantz.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to see you. Hold on, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Should show that, share. There we go. So you should see the map from Topeka to Lubbock. This is our route. Well, actually, what you'll notice, I try to spend the least amount of time in Oklahoma as possible because I hate Oklahoma, no offense, Oklahoma, but I love to miss that. In this last trip, we drove through some really pretty country. So if you haven't been to Lubbock, I'll invite you. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Steve and I met when he was in the home mountain equipment industry, and I worked for a company called the Med Group, which was headquartered here in Lubbock, the National Home Mountain Equipment Network, and I did the education for them and speaking. And then in 2007, I went out on my own full-time with speaking and writing. I had a small construction company. I do outdoor structures still. So I love that. I've been adjunct at Tech forever. And 3 years ago, I was able to squeeze in full-time in the College of Media and Communications because I was weary of traveling. I have 3 grandkids, and let me show you those babies. This is Hopper, Wit, and Icy. Hopper's 8 years old. Wit is 6 years old. Icy is 3. That's my lovely wife, Janet. Janet's a speech pathologist at a hospital here in Lubbock and works half-time. So our daughter decided to homeschool our grandkids this year. And so we have them on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So my main job during those days is to keep Icy, the little one, out of their hair while they study. It is fun, but it can be exhausting. Some of you know that. This was their project yesterday. Whit decided to dig a hole so that he could create a compost pit. And then Icy built that great structure on the right. So they were covered with dirt. I'm blessed that I get to do it, but it can be exhausting at times. I'm sure you or friends of yours in similar situations. So let's talk about your brother-in-law for just a little bit, man. Here's your brother-in-law. And it may not be your brother-in-law, but let's say it is. And he has a negative perspective on everything in life. He knows every conspiracy theory there is. Anytime you spend with him, it makes your stomach hurt. It makes your head hurt. It's a miserable experience. And so it would make sense that you wouldn't see your brother-in-law very often. But let's say instead what you do is you invite him over for breakfast at 6. So you spend 2 hours with him before you go to work. And you decide to take him with you in the car to work. And every now and then in the workday you check in with him, especially at lunchtime. And then 5 o'clock he gets in the car with you and comes home with you. And then he spends the entire evening with you and do it every day, every week. What's that going to do to your bowel system? Well, here, let's just replace your brother-in-law with this. It's the news. Now, I am in media and communication, but I will tell you, I used to be a county commissioner years ago here in Lubbock. And that was in the 90s, and that's when I gave up the news, and I haven't missed it since. I'm not trying to encourage people to be ignorant, but I'm telling you, I don't have enough life left to be outraged all the freaking time and to believe every conspiracy theory, and just the negativity's wearing me out, as I think perhaps you. And here's the greatest violator. Again, in my study in social media, Facebook is notorious for stealing your data, harvesting your data, using it. But the greatest danger right now, what's going on with us with media, is called a filter bubble. Filter bubble is this. Facebook and Google and news uses algorithms kind of to identify what you believe. And so when you go online, they'll show you only those things you already agree with. And the algorithm works so well. If you and I go to Google and Google in exactly the same thing, we're going to come up with different results. And so the challenge is this. Whatever you believe, you can find 1,000 other people who completely agree with you. And one of the grad students that I worked with here at Tech was doing his study on flat earthers. And there are 2 competing elements of flat earthers. One believe that the earth is stationary. They use scripture where it talks about the earth is the footstool of God. Another believes that the earth is a flying disc through space. Both believe in flat earth, but they each think the other group is crazy. Now, in his research with these folks, these are good folks, man, and these are somewhat intelligent folks, but they use their intelligence in a different way. But the challenge, again, is this. No matter how crazy my beliefs, I can find 1,000 other people that agree with me. So one of the challenges, well, my first encouragement is just give up the news. I don't think it's going to kill you. Or don't invite it over at 6 in the morning, and don't bring it to work with you, and don't spend your evenings watching it, because I guarantee you it will give you irritable bowel syndrome, it will make your head hurt, it will make you hostile, and make you angry. And you may disagree with me on this. I'm good with that, except I'm right, which sounds like everybody on the news, doesn't it, man, saying exactly that way. So one thing is just, give it up, and now here's the next step. Oh, this is a great meme. I know 2020 has been a battle. I love this meme, man. If 2020 was a scented candle, it speaks for what the year, it's a tough time, man. When Steve was telling me, I spoke to the Rotary here in Lubbock last month. It was the first time since March the 12th I had long pants on. And today I have no pants at all, but that's not your problem. But I'm just saying that man, it's been such an interesting year. I'm teaching 3 classes this semester. They're all online. I work hard to try to connect with my students, and that's been a challenge. I know a lot of y'all have those challenges at work. It's just one of those times in life. It's not, we all have these times. It's just not often we go through all of them together. Here's my way to get over the news and find a positive aspect. This comes from Scripture. Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. That says it so well, man. Replace the hostility in our brain with those things that are excellent, those things that are pure. And now I know I'm preaching at you, man. So I know almost all of you are probably in positions of leadership. There's a book called Strengths-Based Leadership that came out of the Gallup organization. And what that book did, it used some qualitative analysis to come down to 4 elements that employees look for in their leaders. They look for trust, compassion, stability, and hope. Now, being an effective leader, you got to understand that humans experience about 30% of life rationally, about 70% emotionally. And that's especially true during this time. So first, I want to talk about as leaders being other-centered. Here are some ideas. Now, trust is the thing that has to happen for anything else to happen within a company. And trust happens because people eventually find they can trust you. Stephen Covey talked about an emotional bank account. And an emotional bank account is this. I build up trust. It goes deeper and deeper, and I have a large account. Now, my lovely wife, Jen, and I've been married 36 years. But if this weekend I decided to have a short, meaningless fling, that 36 years of deposit with Janet would go down, not just to zero, but way below zero, where I may never make it a positive balance again. The problem with trust, it takes a long time to build it, and it takes such a short time to destroy it. One act can destroy it. So the first thing I do is build trust. And you know how we build trust? By being trustworthy. Now, in these times, the point is to be predictable in these unpredictable times. Folks should know that they can count on you. Make commitments in critical areas that you can. Don't shy away from difficult subjects like layoffs or pay, but let folks know the scenarios and the decision criteria so they're not caught by surprise. And related to compassion, say out loud that you understand what's going on with them, that you're behind them, and then back it up with policy, because once COVID has passed, what your folks will remember is the way that you've been treated, that they've been treated. The next thing has to do with stability. Make sure you folks have the material equipment they need to do their job. Some sense of normalcy, which is such a huge challenge to do that. I understand. Communicate. I like this if you had a handout. Communicate progress and small wins. Find ways to celebrate. And then the final piece of those, remember, trust, compassion, stability, and hope is hope. And of those 4, hope is the one that most requires you as a leader to be proactive, to describe what you aspire to and what you're motivated by, where the company's headed. Now, related to this is not happy Pollyanna talk. In fact, some of you may have heard of the Stockdale paradox when Jim Collins wrote Good to Great, and its Admiral Stockdale was in the Hanoi Hilton for 8 years. He was tortured, he led the resistance, and when Collins asked him who didn't make it out of the Hanoi Hilton, Stockdale said this: the optimists. They were the ones who said we're going to be out by Christmas. Christmas would come and Christmas would go. Then they'd say we're going to be out by Easter. And Easter would come and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then be Christmas again. And they died of a broken heart. Stockdale said this. This is a very important lesson. You must never confuse faith that you'll prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. Now, we are in this situation, and you see it in the, we're if only this would happen, if only we could go back to before March. This will all be done in fall. This will all be done by Christmas. The brutal fact is we don't know when it'll be done. So our job, your job as leaders, is to face it, have plans, lay out the scenarios, help your folks know that it's not hopeless, help them understand where we are on that. Now, for you. That's you in leadership. Let's talk about some of the things I think can make a difference in our life or replace the news with other elements. The first one is laughter. And man, it is hard to find it. Now, there are 2 kinds of laughter. Now, laughter is interesting. It is a nonverbal form of communication in a sense. Watching a movie by yourself, you may laugh once or twice. If one other person's in there, it multiplies by about 10. If you're in a theater, it multiplies. If we ever get to be in a theater again, it multiplies by 100 because we're communicating with other people. We need laughter. Now, there are two kinds of laughter, and they both have different physiological effects. There's the kind of laughter that is that makes fun of other people, dehumanizes people, and I think it dehumanizes us. And unfortunately, that's the majority of humor we see now. I kind of miss, I'm an old guy, I miss Johnny Carson, man. I just, someone who's funny. The other kind of funny is funny that is just positive, self-deprecating, simply funny. That's the kind of laughter that we need, laughter we ought to seek out. Now, one of my recommendations is find a funny movie this week with no redeeming social purpose. The classics would be, of course, Dumb and Dumber, which is art, not just a film. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation needs to start happening right now. I don't know what your favorite movie is, but we need some laughter. It's interesting. One stat says that children laugh 400 times a day, and as adults, we only laugh about 25. I don't know if that's accurate. I know part is accurate because my two grandsons think that flatulence is the funniest thing in the world, so 375 of those times have to do with tooting. But we need to laugh more, man. The other thing related to laughter is just celebrating more things, especially small things, especially the small things that are available to us right now, man, just piece by piece. Take 5 to 15-minute vacations from this life, which means go for a walk or go for a walk with someone else. I don't know what for you are those moments, but it's easy eventually to stop taking those moments and just kind of, I spend a lot of time in front of the computer just like you, man. I'm careful to go outside, walk, and take those moments. So we need laughter and time to relax and breathe and not always be somewhere else in our minds. Now, my dad, I love my dad, and I lived next to him for 15 years. He died in 1998. Man, I did love him. It was nice to get back to know him as a man instead of a father, and we spent some good times talking. But when I was a kid, here's how my dad did vacations, because he sold auto glass. He had 1 week of vacation a year, 1 week, man. So what he would do, he'd load up the Rambler station wagon. We always owned Ramblers. He was a Rambler, man. We'd throw a mattress in the back, and there were 3 of us boys. And my dad defined the success of vacation by how far we drove without stopping. And once you pee in Lubbock, you're not going to get another chance to pee later, man. So when I had my family, Patrick, my son, is actually my stepson. He was 4 when Janet and I got married. We adopted Cassidy a couple of years later. So when Cass was about 2 and Patrick was about 8, we decided to take our first family vacation. And we were going to go visit some friends in Corpus Christi, Texas, which is 530.19 miles from Lubbock, Texas. And I was going to make that ride and that drive without stopping. And my wife said, but she was real scary when she said it. And here's what I learned from my lovely wife more than anything. In fact, here's the thing I want you to get today. If there's only one thing, life is found in the roadside parks. Life is found in those spontaneous moments that we allow to happen. And we never know when they'll happen, man. And it's been hard to make those roadside moments. Now, I understand that. We never know what will give us a chance to see our life and see our life in a different way. Let's talk about a little bit about making time, because what's interesting about what this pandemic has done to us, I think it's forced people to slow down, and I think there's probably great value in that. We get habituated to stress, so part of what I think has been a challenge for folks is slowing down and getting comfortable with it, but I think what may be a challenge once the economy ramps up, some people may decide, I'm not going to live that life again. I want more time. Now, here's my favorite quote in the world. I wish I knew who said it. The quote is this: from now on, I will schedule my life around those who will cry in my funeral. What that means is this: I'm going to make my family most important. And my friends, I want to make sure that I'm there for them, that I create time, that the very first thing I schedule in my appointment book is time with them. That's one reason I got weary of traveling. I had grandkids here in Lubbock, and I didn't want to miss that time with them, man. So I was blessed to be able to make a choice to be with them. Really, the magic word, as you might guess, to calendar congestion is learning to say no, which is a great word, a great choice, man.
I used to give my students an assignment called a wisdom assignment. They had to interview 4 people aged 35 or older and ask them questions like, what's your greatest memory, your greatest regret? What do you wish you'd known then that you know now? Here's some of the things related to time that they shared, man. I wish I'd known that kids grow up fast and Elvis would die young. I wish I'd known that spilling a glass of milk at Thanksgiving dinner was not a 10 on the disaster scale. Best advice, and I followed it, that people are more important than things. That you can always take time later to clean your house or wash your car or fix the roof or sweep the patio. But you will never get this moment with your family or friends again, so you must give the moments with people all your attention. Every moment's enormous, and it's all we have. If you can, this would be a good week to call somebody you haven't seen in a while and have coffee with them. Again, I'm not sure what all the restrictions are, but it would be a good time to reach out, start building those relationships again, and get out of our house, man. Let's talk a little bit about moments, just because you can probably tell even with this part, I struggle with ADHD. If they had Ritalin when I was a kid, I'm sure they would have injected me with it. I'd be on it now. Some of the definitions of ADHD, easily distracted by relevant stimuli, often impulsively abandons one task for another, a tendency to act without regard to personal consequences, often at the expense of personal safety. That describes me. I'm not great at settling down, and one of the things I need more than anything is to learn to be still. And I've been working on that for especially this last 5 years, to be still, to take more moments. Especially this summer, man, I have a tendency to, I get up at 5 and I do a lot of my work on the computer before the sun comes up. But this summer especially, I focus on getting outside when the sun came up and drinking a cup of coffee. Years ago, to slow down, I visited a friend who had an outdoor shower at his place, and I realized, because usually my showers were like 7 seconds, and I try to set a record every time. I realized I kind of slowed down some in outdoor shower, so I built one at my house. I shouldn't have built it in the front yard. That was a mistake. I didn't know my neighbors were all upset about the naked thing, so I moved it in the backyard. But every morning starts with some time in the hot tub, some time reading, an outdoor shower. It helps me ease the day more gently. I ride a bike for exercise, but I ride by myself. I find when I ride with other people, I try to get a little competitive or stay at the front. And so I ride my bike so I can slow down, and especially I try to savor and enjoy that time with my grandchildren. Even if I find it exhausting, I know not many people get that blessing. I want to take full advantage of it as it comes. I breathe in my grandchildren, which reminds me, there's a great little book I found, Lessons from My Grandmother. Adriana Trigiani. She wrote this, man. I love this. She's describing her grandmother, Lucy. Whenever I came into the room, she'd light up, so happy to see me. No one in the course of my entire life was ever as happy to see me as she was. Looking back now, I realize that you only ever need one person who lights up that way when you enter the room. One person is all it takes to give a kid confidence. My job in life is for my face to light up every time I see my grandkids. And then Hopper, the 8-year-old, his face lights up when he sees me. I just can't describe what great moments those are, great blessings. We all need somebody whose face lights up for us, and we need our face to light up for other people. We need to be there for them. Because we don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see what Hopper, Witt, I actually remember 20 years from now, 30 years from now about their time with me. We just don't know what moments matter. In fact, another piece from the Wisdom Assignment, this woman said her best memory, and what they had to do with the people they interviewed, just tell me what their age was. They didn't have to tell me their name. But this woman was 51, and she said, my best memory was when my dad took me to a Brownie meeting when I was 8. I don't know the context for that. I don't know what was going on. I just know, man, we don't know. So we need to be there for every moment that we can with all the people that we can. Another piece related from that book, I love this. Purpose made my grandmothers attractive. They had opinions. Work kept them out in the world, connected with people of all ages, also kept them in the moment and gave them a worldview. The scope of their lives did not become narrow as they aged. It grew wider. I love that. And now they have acquired wisdom, so they have greater gifts to share. They weren't consumed with worry about how they looked because they were busy living, participating full in the world around them. what a great encouragement for us to participate fully in the world around them. I know that's one of the missions and visions of Rotary, to participate fully in the world around us. One of the things I love about my life, I celebrated my 65th birthday this summer, but I don't want my mornings to consist of being around 5 other 65-year-old white guys discussing our bowel movements, etc. Man, I love that I am around kids all the time with all kinds of different perspectives out in the world. Nothing helps us grow like that, man, to be inspired by others who are not us. Purpose. Those who love life take care of others. That's a purpose. Savoring. Savoring involves your senses. One of the studies by Stephen Schuller at the University of Pennsylvania, notice this. If we take a few minutes each day to actively savor something we typically hurry through, like eating a meal, drinking a cup of coffee, taking a walk, then we begin to experience more positive emotions through the day. Another piece on savoring came from a book called Mayday. It was written by physician Dr. Alan Lohas, and he had a duodenal perforation, so he couldn't eat anything for 6 months, nothing. So he wrote a list of 89 foods he was going to eat once he could. Now, here's what I want you to imagine related to that. I know that we are waiting for life to get somewhat back to normal. There are things we can't wait to do. Well, here's what I'm hoping, man. Once it gets back to normal, we don't lose this feeling. We don't take advantage of those things we get to savor. We don't take advantage of getting to be at dinner with friends. We don't take advantage of all the different experiences. I hope this time we capture it and hang on to it. Final piece is this. I think the most important thing in our lives right now is having a sense of gratitude. And actually not gratitude, a grateful heart, which is a lifestyle. I and you have both known there are people who have almost nothing, who find a way to be grateful, to live a graceful life. And there are folks who have everything they need, but they still spend most of their time moaning about what they don't have. Gratitude makes a difference. You know, I told you Steve and I met in the home health equipment industry. This email came up from a friend, Todd Dewey, who does assistive technology, which means wheelchair seating for folks. And he described this. Allow me to read it to you. He writes me, "Dear Gary, on Friday I was scheduled at 1 p.m. to deliver a wheelchair to a kid I've known since he was 6. He's now 22 and doing the things that muscular dystrophy have delivered him. When I got to the store Friday morning, the wheelchair was still unassembled. It took our assembly crew until 5 p.m. to finish the assembly, just what I wanted to do on my Friday evening. But I loaded up the chair, headed out for my 1-hour drive to Justin's home, and about 5 minutes into the trip, in Friday evening Baltimore traffic, I remembered not seeing the wheelchair's charger. I called the assembly department, told they'd forgotten to load it. So I turned around and headed back to get in. Again, I head for Justin's house. Now it's 5:30 p.m. and on the drive, I kept wishing I hadn't agreed to do this on a Friday night, but I sucked it up and went along my way. When I got to Justin's house, his family's had one tragedy after another. They're very poor and have little food in their house. I unloaded his very complex new wheelchair in the 2 boxes of accessory parts I still had to install. And again, I thought how much I wanted to be home. I went inside and saw Justin, and I let go of my selfishness. This kid, now 22, can't move more than a finger, breathes with a ventilator, and totally relies on his mother and nurses to manage all of his needs, even simple ones like scratching his nose. I spent several hours working with Justin in his chair. When his father got home, he asked Justin's mom if they had hot water. She said no, so he excused himself and came back about 40 minutes later all sweaty and dirty. I asked him what he was doing, and he told me how they heat their water with a wood stove copper coil contraption that he had built. He'd been cutting and splitting wood for the fire, and I was amazed. So as I worked on Justin's chair, breaking many times for him to get assistance from his nurse to pee, we chat about life, his life and mine. He's still concerned for others, even though he's in the condition he's in. At 9:30, his father asked me if I wanted to call it a night, and I said I would work as long as it would take to get the chair completed. But he said Justin was tired and wanted to get into the bed, and just before getting into bed, Justin begins to get sick and throw up. He is hanging from his Hoyer lift sling over top of bedpan and throwing up. Mom is helping with this all the time. Both she and Justin stay calm. So I started packing things up when his dad asked me if I joined them for beer and some homemade sausage ball. I said yes, and we went out to sit on the porch. His father looked into the sky and said, "What a great night." Here was this man that has his oldest child dying from a horrible disease. He drove a truck for the past 5 days from North Carolina to Michigan to California and back, hoping the entire time he'd return to find his son still alive. He gets home to a house with a little food and has to chop and split wood in order to heat their water, all this, and he still sees it as a grade 9. Todd says this, I'm not a good writer, but actually, obviously, a great writer. I appreciate your emails and felt the need to share this as it moved me beyond anything I could write or read. Those of us who are selfish at times need to be thankful for many things, including, but not limited to, healthy families, food in our house, the ability to scratch our noses when we feel the need, the ability to use the bathroom on our own without an audience from a complete stranger, new nurse, hot water on demand. Say this to yourself, who am I not to be grateful? Why are we so blessed? I know we are struggling right now, but we are so blessed with all that's here. That's the good life, is being great. Final piece is this. Just show a little grace. Show a little grace to others. And I've been trying to be graceful with my students. Going online when they didn't want to is difficult. And so I've tried to be graceful with them, but I've also tried to be graceful with myself and give myself a break. I'm not doing a perfect job of speaking, of teaching or speaking, but I'm giving it the best I can. We all could use a little grace. So my encouragement this season won't last forever. Slow down, simplify, spend a little less money and a lot more time. Do something for somebody else. Count your blessings. Thanks for letting me be with you today.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you very much. Do we have questions? Comments?
Gary, the first question that I got from the chat was a book list. So if you...
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you some books I've really enjoyed, man. I'll do that. Yeah, both on savoring life and on the leadership piece I talked about. Yeah,
Yes.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Do we have other thoughts or comments?
This is Larry. I have a comment for Gary. You mentioned about savoring moments and doing things that are funny, and you mentioned National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I managed the Topeka Performing Arts Center here, and we were to have had that movie shown, and then Chevy Chase was coming out for a live Q&A. Wow. But he has planned, and we will be doing it December of 2021. So everybody come and have some laughter.
Nice. Steve, I'm visiting you that month, man.
Very good.
I like a great idea. That's
Absolutely.
a great idea. All right. I think.
Okay.
All right.
Last chance. Again, thank you, Gary. That was really, I loved it. I really loved it. That was good. Next week, our speaker is going to be our own Roger Eshelman, and the subject is World Polio Day, which is October 24. It'll be just 2 days after our meeting. So we can look forward to that, and please tune in to that presentation. With that, let's shift gears and conclude with the four-way test. Four-way plus one or two, as the case may be. Of the things we think,
say, or do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And will it be fun and kind?
Is it kind?
Everybody enjoy this beautiful weather, and we'll see you next Thursday, if not sooner. Thank you for attending.
Thank